Hey everyone, if you're watching, you just watched our cool trailer, and I'm gonna talk about a lot about what went into it. So let's get into it. I kind of got into virtual production because of The Mandalorian. So I was looking at it and I thought, wow, this looks really good. And I thought they actually shot it on location, but it turns out that a lot of it was using this engine called Unreal Engine, which I'll talk about later. A lot of the scenery in the background is actually 3D generated, and the foreground is real life. So our early ideas were revolving around space, and that changed our project quite a bit. For virtual production, it's a lot, I think it's as intensive, if not more intensive, than like regular production because you have to have everyone on set, except you're basically doing it in front of a green screen. So we had to change our project a little bit and kind of the scope of our project to fit the fact that we wouldn't be able to have any actors because of social distancing. We kind of slimmed it down to only be a space station and include more virtual graphics and animation instead of a combination of the two. So that was a big like change going from having both have equal footing to kind of be more digital. The main tool that we used was Unreal Engine. All right, so I'm loading this level and I'll just explain a few things. One of the benefits about working digitally instead of with real people and like in a real environment is this environment was all pre-generated. We didn't have to. This was for free on the Unreal Marketplace, right? Because of that, we can get some high quality assets and we can really up the production quality of our movie just because we're using somebody else's assets that they're kind enough to give us, right? Right now I'm in the level editor, which is basically like you can move stuff around and drag in like objects and stuff. And if you watch, I can actually simulate it so it'll play. And these animations that are playing, we made those and we placed those in there. I just loaded this one up. So basically what this does is it loads an instance of the level, and think about it, if you've used Premiere, After Effects, or even animation things like Maya, basically what we're doing is we're loading up a level with different keyframes. It saves all of the keyframes in this one level and all the different character placements. So that's what a level sequencer does. So we've placed the camera kind of low to the floor here, and if I actually unlock the viewport, you can kind of see, it looks like there's two cameras here, but there's actually just one. It just moves from here to here throughout the sequence. So I've moved the camera from this kind of low point here to try and get a sort of a dolly. Yeah, that's what it's called. And then I have three actors right here, and they kind of walk past the scene. So if I lock my viewport to the camera, we can kind of see, it's kind of like in Premiere where you can watch your video here. So we'll just hit play, and I've animated all these guys with another tool called Mixamo. I'll get into that later. I had to make all of their movements the perfect speed for their animation, and I had to make sure that their footsteps were in shot. And if we look at all these different tracks right here, you can see all the individual keyframes through these little circles. And I've keyframed the different movements. So I have them go behind a box. And in the final film, I use this as a transition between this opening shot into our space station. Okay, so Blender's a powerful tool because we can source assets from online. So we have two main ones here that we use. We use the Space Station Builder Pack and we use an astronaut. And because we use Blender, we can export them into Unreal and it'll look better than anything that's like on the Unreal Marketplace. It basically lets us open up to two marketplaces rather than one, and it just frees our options up a bit more. In addition, usually 3D modelers like to use Blender more than Unreal, so it's more of a typical one. So we had to use Blender because for this astronaut was incomplete, but he was really high quality and he had a lot of polygons. This guy gave us a kind of unfinished astronaut for free. This is what he had on his website, and for us to use him, we actually had to color him in. So I'll go into to Blender real quick. right now it's just a mesh, which means it's just like a texture. So like I can't really like move his arm or anything like that because he doesn't have a skeleton that can move like us. Imagine if there was no muscles or bones in our body, it would just be kind of stiff, right? So that's what we use Mixamo for later. After we model our guys in Blender and we export them out, we don't, like I explained earlier, we don't have a skeleton that we can use. Mixamo is actually from Adobe. Like, because you guys are at Freestyle, everyone can use this because it's part of the Adobe license. So you can just import whatever model you have, and it'll automatically like rig it if it's like a human figure. I use this mainly for the running because the assets are like not super high quality. Like they're meant for games and not really cinematics very much. So I thought I could get away with like showing just their feet or like less of them, because if you look, like obviously the animations are fluid enough, right? But like it's very clearly animated. Like it's not like an actual person moving. So for people moving, we actually I actually mocapped myself with an Xbox Kinect of all things. So what this is doing is it's taking infrared data of me. Yeah, there's like an infrared camera on the Kinect, and it sees me dancing or walking or whatever it is, right? And it can use that data and it can plant it onto a skeleton. So what we can do is we can match this skeleton to the skeleton with Mixamo, and we can run animations into whatever mesh we want. So in this case, we'd use it to animate the astronaut that we just made. So this is really useful because basically a lot of animators' workflow is keyframing every single movement, which gets really tedious, and it gets like difficult after several, 100 frames, 1,000 frames, So what mocap can do, motion capture, is that it can replace that, or even help, it can help supplement it. Because instead of working from nothing and animating by hand, what you can do is you can actually use this as a base, and you can animate in here or Maya or whatever it is. You can animate off of your movement as a base, and it just makes it so much easier, because instead of having to keyframe every single movement myself, what I could do is I could just go up there and walk for a few seconds or stand for a couple seconds, and then I just go back here and export it. It's really, that's almost as simple as it is for workflow to me. So like I look all normal in the background, right? So if you see these little dots here, I mean there's a few blue dots on the model, but there's also blue dots, like that's my desk, this is the floor. Those are all infrared pixels that have been scanned out by the Kinect for like depth data, and then it pings back like how far it is. So that kind of gives a somewhat accurate indication of where your like joints are in 3D space, like in real life. So I can use that and put it in like virtual. So if you look at me, like these two look almost exactly the same, which is actually pretty impressive. So then what you can do is you can make it so that you can have a target actor and kind of sync up the bones if they're not like exact, and you can make them compatible with each other. So if I go here, so this is the skeletal mesh. It's like the skeleton plus the mesh, and we got that from Mixamo. So we import the mesh from Mixamo, and it's a pretty accurate representation of where I'm standing. My only issue is my legs are skinny, I guess, so it looks like this guy's a girl. Especially in our final film, it's definitely got like a sassy look to him. Like he's got some sass over there. Anyways, I personally preferred this because I don't know. I like being able to show off all the different types of stuff that we learned in our trailer. And if I just use some random idle animation from Mixamo, like here, watch. If I search some idle animation, it's wacky, It's not exactly what we'd want for some guys standing in front of an elevator, not an elevator, a door, like I used in the film. So I think that's one of the benefits of motion capturing yourself, is that you can actually make whatever animation you need for your film or your trailer, whatever it is, and you can export it yourself. You don't there's no limitations to this essentially. So honestly, if anyone else wants to do this, I would super recommend it. It's really fun, and it's actually a lot easier than you'd think it was when you start. Like it gets frustrating sometimes, but there's a lot of content out there. There's a lot of tutorials that can help get you started. And the possibilities with this are, it's literally like having your own professional studio, but like this is the size of the green screen, and like I have a virtual camera and stuff, and like I can motion capture that. I can motion capture myself, and suddenly I have like pretty professional animation and special effects. So all right, that's it. Thank you guys for watching.